Welcome to the My Opinion Podcast, a show that focuses on leadership, life, and love to empower women around the world to be the best versions of themselves. The My Opinion Podcast is a weekly show with Maya's Motivation Monday, focusing on leadership topics for women, and special edition episodes that feature guest interviews and current events. Now, all in her opinion, here is your host, Maya Roffler.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 15 of My Opinion, the relaunch. How about that intro? I'm super excited to have an intro back, and shout out to Nicole, who did an amazing job and really heard my vision and made it come to life, and you'll hear the outro at the end. For those of you who listen to seasons 1 through 3, we had a really cool intro and outro talking about my opinion and what we did at the time. And it was really important for me that I took the time in season 4 and my relaunch and captured me and leadership and who I'm about and found the right person, and I totally did. So shout out to Nicole. If you guys are interested in working with her, let me know. Her voice is incredible and she just really captured it. So I'm super excited. So here we are at episode 15. I hope you guys are staying safe and sane, as I continue to say. I hope you guys had a great Easter holiday weekend. If you guys celebrate, of course. I know that we did. It was great. We got to actually sneak away and visit family in a very safe way with face masks, of course, and making sure that we are healthy. So happy Easter for those of you who celebrate, or happy weekend. But here we are again with Maya's Motivation Monday. We're going back to talking about leadership qualities. And this is one that is pretty near and dear to my heart. It is empathy. And empathy for episode 15. I can't believe we're at episode 15. This is so awesome. And empathy is an interesting thing for me personally, as a leader, as an individual, because I think empathy is something as a young leader that I lacked a lot. I think people really confuse empathy and sympathy a lot. And they think, oh, you know what? I'm really not an empathetic person. That's a challenge for me. I'm not empathetic. Well, empathy and sympathy are completely different. In order to be a really good leader, you must be empathetic. The best leaders are empathetic leaders. And we're going to talk about why that is today and why that is one of the top leadership characteristics. And it doesn't mean that you're a sympathetic leader, which I know some people believe that being a sympathetic leader is a good thing. I am not partial to that, and I don't necessarily think negatively about that either. I'm not necessarily the most sympathetic person in the world. I definitely became a more sympathetic person when my brother passed away, because it was such a traumatic experience for me. And when I've gone through trauma in my life, I do feel a little more sympathetic for people. But I do believe that I became a much more empathetic person, leader, just obviously all around person, but definitely a leader when that happened to me. It was a big turning point in my life. For those of you who follow me and have followed me through that journey, and those of you who watched me on TV, you know that, because it was a big change watching me before and then seeing me after, and then also my social media. I'm grateful for that perspective that it brought me and changing how I look at empathy. And I really didn't even know that it was giving me the tools of empathy. So what is empathy? A lot of people don't know. They think sympathy and empathy are hand in hand, same thing, synonymous, and that's not actually true. So what is empathy? What does it mean to be empathetic? Let's just talk about that in general. Well, empathy means to actually be able to understand the need of others. It simply means to be aware of other people's feelings and their thinking. It means that you can put yourself in other people's shoes. So whether you realize it or not, you have been an empathetic person already if you are saying, like, I see where you're coming from. I understand because I can put myself in your shoes and see your perspective. I don't have children, but I know that must be difficult being a single mom of 2. I am not married to a husband who lost his job during this time, but that must be really difficult. And I'm able to put myself in your shoes and have empathy. It's putting yourself in other people's shoes so that you can truly understand how they're feeling and how they're thinking. It's the thinking and the feeling. It doesn't matter if you agree with how they process their feelings in their situation. It doesn't matter if you agree with not only their feelings, but how they think about the situation. It's, can you put yourself in their situation, whatever that may be? There's a bajillion situations. So can you put yourself in that situation and truly try to understand whether you agree with it or not? And that's when you move forward as a leader with empathy. A lot of people think empathy means the touchy-feely, soft. That is not me. I am not that person. I do have a big heart, but I'm not the touchy-feely, warm. My husband is a little more of the emotional one, which don't kill me for saying that, Jackson. But that's why we work. But that's not what it is. This is the ability to really put yourself in somebody else's shoes, see the world through somebody else's eyes and heart. So mind and heart also. There's some top things. You know I love my articles. You know I love my blogs. I have a podcast. I talk about this. But I love to read. Love to read, love to write. Empathy is one of the top leadership qualities. How can you be the best leader using empathy as a strength? Because it is a strength. It is not this touchy, sad weakness that everyone thinks it is. It is a strength. Empathy creates bonds. So that's one. When you actually care about somebody else, you're creating a strong bond. You're better able to connect. Imagine the power of your team. So it's being able to create the bonds of your teams together. So creating bonds. You're creating the bond with your individual team members, but you're also creating bonds throughout the team. It's like this network. Think about a bunch of wires, right? All intertwining. Because it shouldn't just be you one-on-one. And I think I've talked about this before. Yes, the one-on-ones are great, but how can you see the dynamics and empathy happening? Like, who's going to connect in the team and who's going to relate? And you should see all these kind of wires crossing. And that builds a team. Empathy gives you insight, too. That's my next step or two. And these aren't really in step order with empathy. These are just great qualities within this characteristic or quality of leadership. It's so important to remember that what we are seeing or feeling as an individual about ourselves, about the world, anything, is not what the individual next to us or on our team is seeing or feeling. How we perceive ourselves is not how someone else perceives us. And we need to remember that. Empathy helps us with that and helps us understand that, because we take ourselves out of ourselves and put us in the other person's shoes, whether it's someone that is reporting to us or in other relationships. But we're talking about leadership, of course. So when you're putting yourself in their shoes, it's so important that you are listening. One of the downfalls that happens and why leaders don't get the insight that they're always looking for is because we listen to respond. We are not listening to understand. We are listening to respond, especially when we have our team members coming to us because of something very emotional or very difficult or something that they're going through, or maybe a topic that's challenging to discuss in general. Whether it is the things that we're going through right now, whether it is being furloughed or being let go because of the times that we're in right now. Maybe they have health issues. Maybe they have things going on within their family. Those are tough things to go through. To have empathy, you're going to listen to understand before responding. One of the biggest mistakes we make as humans in general is we listen to respond. We don't listen to understand. But when we change that mindset, we are living and leading with empathy, because we are listening to understand, and then we can respond in a totally different way. We can respond with action and with care, and we can actually do something to help and mentor the people that are working for us. And that changes everything. we're using empathy, so it allows us to understand different perspectives, and it stops the judgment before it even begins and assumptions, so we can understand before we give a response or an action. The other thing is make sure that empathy is on the forefront, because if you are listening attentively, this rolls right into this. If you're listening and making sure it's a priority, you're being present in the moment. And when you're being present in the moment, so many things happen. Yes, you are showing empathy, but you're showing how important that person is to you. Active listening is important. Showing them that, your phone is turned over, you're not looking at your phone, your laptop is closed. These moments are really important. Obviously, we're all digital, virtual right now, so you're on camera, you're watching them. I was in a networking meeting the other day, and an individual that I'm connected with, she was talking about her company and finding the balance between phone calls and video calls and all these different things, because we're on video all the time, we're on. That spoke volumes to me, because it showed me that she is very empathetic to her team, because you do have to be on in a different way when you're on video versus a phone call. So it's not that she doesn't want to have those face-to-face interactions, and it's not that she's not going to have those important conversations on video with her team, but she's empathetic to the fact that they need that balance, they need that time, and she's listened to her team about that, and I loved that, and I wanted to throw that in there. But it teaches you, when you're a good listener and you're not listening to respond, you're listening to understand, it teaches you to be present in the moment. So through that, when you're listening to understand, it gives you the time to put yourself in their shoes and just understand, instead of just coming up with a way to respond. And I think when we're sitting there and trying to think of a response so quickly, we're scrambling. How do we respond to this? How do we deal with this? How do we send them over to HR to deal with this? Or how do we come up with the right answer? What's the right thing to say? That's not what this is about. We listen. We understand what is happening with them. What are the needs of this individual? And how can we genuinely be there for them? And while they're talking about this, take that information in and take some time. Put yourself in their shoes. And while you might not feel the same way, you might not think the same way, you're going to understand a whole lot more why they are thinking and feeling that way. But when we listen to respond, we quickly pass judgment and we quickly make assumptions. Believe it or not, being empathetic actually really sharpens your people skills too. For me, being empathetic was really hard for a long time, because I was such a hard ass. And I just thought, suck it up. You got to deal with it. This is life. I had a really tough childhood, and I had a lot of things happen to me, and I always had to be independent. I was financially independent at a very young age. I continue to be independent. Yes, I'm married now. Yes, I have a very happy life, but I believe in independence, and I'm like, suck it up, just keep it moving. Like, you got to keep going. Hard things happen. I had to change my perspective as a leader, because everybody's different and everybody's situation is different. And just because someone is going through a hard time or might need help does not mean that they're weak. Does not mean that they are just crawling in a corner and saying, I'm giving up. No, sometimes people really do need some help. The things that I've gone through have made me empathetic and made me an empathetic leader. And I thank God for that. Even though I would never wish on anybody some of the things that have happened to me, losing my brother was definitely the turning point in that, but there were other things too. Being empathetic can be really hard. It was hard for me. It takes time to learn how to do this, and there are typically pivotal points that leaders will tell you, like, this is what made me a little more empathetic. This is what made me show that I actually care and trust. It is time consuming to spend the time with each one of your direct reports or your team, or even people that don't directly report to you, and carry that all the way down if you're leading a company and you really genuinely care about your team, which I think you should. But when you build that empathy, you sharpen and you get better with people skills, because you're able to understand so many different perspectives, and people will respect the hell out of you for it, because even if you've never been through anything that they are going through or have been through, you can be empathetic because you're putting yourself in their shoes and you can see their perspective. This is one of my favorite ones. Empathy can make you a better communicator. You guys know from listening to my podcast, watching my lives Sunday at 8 o'clock Eastern on Instagram, I love to communicate. Communication is key in your personal relationships, in your work relationships, any relationship. If your communication is broken in any way, the relationship is broken. The foundation is broken. So many things are broken. So empathy makes communication stronger. So if you are empathetic and you have learned to be an empathetic leader, you are a better communicator. So why? Why are you a better communicator? Because when you're acting through empathy, you're listening in a different way. And we've kind of already talked about this, but it's rounding everything out. You're listening to understand. You're going to understand that person in a totally different way. It's going to teach you, and you're going to walk away from every conversation knowing how to communicate more effectively every single time with that person, instead of just listening to the information and then waiting to respond with what you maybe already knew you were going to say going into that conversation, or just absorbing enough from what they were saying so that you can cultivate a response. Instead of doing all of that, you actually actively listen and you learn so much about that person. So every time you come back to your one-on-ones with them, or every time they call you for something, you know what works for them. For instance, I have salespeople that, I know they just need me for a minute or two on a call. Not that they're not going to have their one-on-ones with me, because they are. Maybe they need just a quick call and that's what they need from me. They've got a couple questions, answers, and then they're going to run 50,000 miles an hour because they want to sell. And that's all they need from me. And then I've got some people that need some emotional support. They need to talk. They need to talk about their day, their driving. They want to talk through a couple of their sales, talk through a couple of their customers because it's weighing on them emotionally. And I know that about them because I have actively listened. I've taken in the information and I know that about them as a person because I've put myself in their shoes and I know about them as a person, as the person that reports to me, how they work. I also have people that are very regimented. Like if their one-on-one doesn't start at 12:15 like it was supposed to, that throws off their whole day. It's really imperative and important that you understand these things about them because you become a better communicator with your team. They become better communicators because they feel comfortable coming to you because they feel heard. And that is so important to me. And that was such a turning point for me too. I think everybody has empathy in them. Everybody can be empathetic. It's learning these tools and steps, and it kind of all comes back to, and I love ending on this communication point, it's communication. Actively listening. Forget about responding. You will know how to respond and process when you actively listen. You listen to the other person, envision yourself in their life, in their shoes, in that moment, whatever you're talking about, whatever difficult situation. If something terrible happened at work, if a difficult sale happened for them, if a difficult project is going on, if something that they're having a challenge with, if they had a great win, that is a great time to listen to because you want to feel that, you want to celebrate that with them. The challenges, you want to be able to feel, how would this weigh on them? Those are the times to put yourself in their shoes. You always want to active listen because you'll learn so much about your team. Lead with empathy and you will be the best leader that you can possibly be. And this is why this is my third characteristic that we've talked about in leadership. I think this is more important now than ever to really put yourself in your team's shoes and understand where they're coming from. You guys are the best. Thanks for listening. Happy Monday Motivation with Maya.
Thank you so much for listening to the My Opinion Podcast. You can catch up on past episodes on the My Opinion Podcast website at www.myopinionpodcast.com, as well as read the My Opinion blog and contact Maya directly with your questions. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at My Opinion Podcast and Maya Roffler. We'll see you back here next week.